Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Courtside Convo with me, Meds. And as always, if you've been enjoying the content, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the video to help support the channel so I can keep bringing you guys more content. Today we're going to talk about some of the significant signings and trades that have been happening around the NBA. Now in this video, I am just going to talk about the major signings or trades or teams that it makes a significant difference to. Now, just to point out, the day that I'm making this video, these are the only significant trades or signings that have been done that I'm aware of anyway. And some of the smaller ones we're just gonna not talk about. I will talk about some of the weird or the peculiar trades and signings that's happened. So with that being said, let's start the video. So in no particular order, we're going to start with Dwight Howard going to Philadelphia. To be honest, I think they should have definitely kept Dwight Howard because he does so many little things well, and he had a great season with the Lakers. I think without having a sure replacement, which obviously now we know they had, this was going to be a crazy trade because at the end of the day, he does so many things well, and in the playoffs, he had a great run and he was a difference maker in those games. But obviously, as we all know, have signed Marc Gasol, which is obviously a great pickup, but I still think he could have been a great backup to Marc Gasol. But on the flip side, I think it's a great trade for Philadelphia. I think he will do well in that team. I think he can mesh with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid on the floor at the same time. He adds depth and size to the big man position. And I think overall he can complement the team pretty well. And Doc Rivers is definitely a smart coach who will use him to the best of his ability. So Wesley Matthews to the Lakers, I think this is a great pickup. He's definitely a great two-way player. He can shoot. He can play defense. He's quite good in transition. He's a very steady player. He's a vet now. He doesn't make terrible decisions. I think all around he's a good player and he's going to be a great fit for the Lakers. He's going to complement those pieces quite well. And I just love the fact that he just gets on with his role regardless of what's asked of him. He doesn't complain. He's not a high maintenance type of player. He just gets on with it and does pretty well in his roles. Dennis Schroeder, another good pickup for the Lakers. He's a solid player and he pretty much came off the best season of his career so far, this last season gone. And he competes hard, he plays pretty good defense, and he's really improved overall as a player. I think he's pretty much going to be coming off the bench most of the times, but I think he's okay with that role. And I think he will thrive with that second unit. So Montrezl Harrell to the Lakers. I mean, this signing made me laugh. Just, you know, with all the drama that's happened between the Lakers and the Clippers and the way Montrezl Harrell goes on sometimes, I think this was hilarious. I know it hurt a lot of the players, especially someone like Pat Bev. He was in shock. I think the Clippers organization was in shock. But at the end of the day, look, he didn't feel like he was wanted there, and he probably had some friction. I know there's some reports that he's had friction with Paul George. And you know, he felt like he wasn't getting the appreciation that he was meant to at the Clippers. Obviously, we know if he plays like the way he plays in the Drew League, he's going to be a great addition to the Lakers. But like I said in my previous video, sometimes when it matters the most, he tends to shy away. Hopefully he can play like that for the Lakers because obviously I do favor the Lakers a little bit. But I try to keep these videos quite neutral and just speak what I feel like is the truth. He's a good scrappy player. He does compete hard. He can play good defense at times, but he needs improving in that department. On the flip side, I think this is a big slip up for the Clippers because that was an integral piece to what they were building for a championship run. And I think Harrell did help them, and he had somewhat meshed with the main core group other than the reports of him not meshing with Paul George. But I think that was a big slip up in terms of that was a piece they should have kept unless they were going to have a sure backup, which I don't think Serge Ibaka is, that we're going to talk about later. Even though he's a great addition, I don't think he's a Montrezl Harrell type player that every team needs. But also, if you wanted a max contract or ridiculous money that the Clippers couldn't afford, I do understand and I do think it makes sense for the Clippers to have parted ways because coming off the season he had, becoming Sixth Man of the Year, he probably did want a big payday. Next, Steven Adams to the Pelicans. I think obviously for the Oklahoma City Thunder, this is a move that does make sense. They are rebuilding, they want to nurture the young guys, and they also have like 6,586 first round picks from now to like 2055. So I don't think Steven Adams would have had the same impact on that team that he's going to have on the Pelicans. I think he's going to play his role and he's going to complement those young players quite well. He's going to set picks, catch alley-oops, play good defense, and he'll fit in, I think, with that group. I personally would like to see maybe on the Lakers as a replacement for Dwight Howard for the position that he was going to play or the role that he was going to play. But again, a great pickup for the Pelicans. Marcus Morris and Patrick Patterson re-signing with the LA Clippers. I mean, great. Moving on, no one cares. So Golden State Warriors signed Kelly Oubre, which is a good pickup for them, but god damn, they're gonna have to pay $68 million extra in taxes on top of his salary, which I think is ridiculous, but then again, it's not my money. I'm not really sure if it's worth it if you're not getting a player that's going to push you over the edge and you're in a win now situation maybe, I mean, at best the Golden State Warriors are going to maybe go out in the second round. And because they're not in a win now situation, I personally don't understand why you would spend so much money in luxury tax and on top of his salary to sign him. But I suppose they've got a plan that we don't know about, but we'll see how that turns out. Chris Paul to the Phoenix Suns. I think, yes, this is a good pickup for the Phoenix Suns, and he's going to help those young guys develop. And I think someone like Devin Booker is going to learn a lot from Chris Paul, and that team will make the playoffs. But I think for Chris Paul himself, even though I know he's not someone to chase rings, I think I would have liked to see him on more of a contending team like the Clippers. That would have made more sense for me because they are in need of another point guard. But I suppose they have added some key pieces and they will go further than they did last year. They will make the playoffs, and I think they will maybe get to the second round of the playoffs at best. I guess you have to respect Chris Paul for going to a team to try and grind it out to maybe get something and make the most of that situation. Jrue Holiday to the Bucks is a great pickup for the Bucks. I think Jrue Holiday is definitely underrated as a player. He's one of the best point guards in my opinion in the league. And I do think he deserves to be competing for a chip on a very good team. And he has a lot to offer to the Bucks. I think they do need that leadership and they do need that point guard to orchestrate their offense when they're struggling to score. I think Giannis is going to definitely benefit from having someone like Jrue Holiday as a playmaker. And he will definitely give Bucks the edge that they needed at that position especially. So the Sixers lose Al Horford and Josh Richardson, but instead they get Danny Green and Seth Curry. Now I think this is a great trade for the Sixers. They get rid of Horford, who's been disappointing. He's not really filled out the role that they really wanted him to fill. He's not been great at shooting. He's not complemented Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons or anyone else, as a matter of fact, on that team. So getting rid of him is good, and replacing him with shooting is even better because Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are going to need some space in the middle to operate. I think when the Sixers have had shooting around Embiid and Simmons, they've done a lot better. And even though I don't like to delve into numbers too much because there's so many factors you have to take into consideration, I think adding shooters to that roster is going to be great, and it's definitely an upgrade for the team. So Rondo to the Hawks. I mean, look, I love me some Rondo. He's one of my favorite point guards ever, and I just want him to be happy. I want him to get paid, and I understand why he chose the money and went to the Hawks. But for me personally, this is a major loss for the Lakers. I think only true basketball fans or basketball players understand how much Rajon Rondo actually did for the Lakers, and on any team for that matter. I know he's not that great during the regular season, but when it comes to playoffs, he's such a difference maker and such a key piece that I think the Lakers should have maybe tried to keep in, because he was potentially one of the main reasons the Lakers won. He's an outstanding playmaker, he's amazing in transition, he plays great defense, he's smart, he knows what he's doing. And other than LeBron James, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I think Rajon Rondo is the second smartest player in the league, if not matching LeBron in smartness. He's obviously gonna be a great fit for the Atlanta Hawks, and he will elevate that whole team, especially when it comes to the playoffs, and he will really add some experience to the players that have not even been in that situation. I think going to the Clippers would have made more sense for his career, but I don't think the money was good enough, and I think Hawks potentially have offered 10 more million than what the Clippers were gonna offer. So I suppose money talks, and he's got to move on. Also, they've added Gallinari, which is also a good pickup. He will help that team. They were definitely in need of some veteran players, and I think both signings are going to help the team in the long run. He's a good shooter, he can post up, he's a good playmaker out of the post. He'll fit into that team quite well. Jeff Green to the Nets. I think this is a great pickup. Again, another two-way player. He's not high maintenance, he doesn't complain, he just gets on with his role, he can shoot the ball, and he's going to be a good complement to those guys, especially Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. He does a lot of things well, and I think he's definitely an upgrade to some of those young guys that would have been in that position or would have played that role. Melo back to Portland. Now let me tell you guys, Carmelo Anthony should have never been disrespected, he should have never been out of the league for a whole season. I think I'm tired of a lot of people making excuses why he was out the league, and for people that try and tarnish his name by saying, for example, he doesn't shoot enough threes when he's just a flat-out scorer. Whether he shoots twos or post-ups or shoots threes or takes it to the hole, I think he's a great scorer. He can score in every single way. And Dame and those guys wanted to always play with him, so I think that must feel good for him, hence why he signed back. He wanted to show his loyalty also. The organization wanting him so much must have felt good. I really hope he doesn't retire after this season. I want him to stay in the league at least for a couple more seasons and try and win a chip, because he definitely deserves it. Avery Bradley to the Miami Heat. I think another great pickup by a team that's contending. He's a solid two-way player again, and he's a much improved point guard. And personally, I think he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the league, if not the best at that point guard position. And Jimmy Butler's gonna love adding another dog to the roster and someone who competes hard and just wants to win. Again, another player I think the Lakers should have tried and kept. Like I said, he's a great two-way point guard, so it would have made sense for Lakers to try and keep him. And when he was playing with the Lakers during the season, he was doing pretty well. So again, I think a loss for the Lakers, but I think he will do well in Miami. DJ Augustin to the Bucks. Now, I don't know how much of an upgrade this is to Eric Bledsoe or George Hill. I suppose we're gonna have to wait and see. Even though Eric Bledsoe struggled during the season and the playoffs with shooting, I just don't know how DJ Augustin is gonna be much of an upgrade. But I suppose it's a fresh face. He'll back up Jrue Holiday and he'll be happy with that role. But I could be wrong and he could do really well. But we'll just have to wait and see. Gordon Hayward to the Hornets. Now, Gordon Hayward's a good player, but his contract is ridiculously high for obviously the type of seasons he's recently had. He's not been the all-star that he once was. But I suppose for someone like Michael Jordan, to get any free agents to come to Charlotte, you're gonna have to offer more money than some other teams will, because it's not an attractive destination for a free agent to come and play. I think he will complement that team quite well, and he's a vet. He can help those young players because they do have a lot of young pieces, but they do need to add a lot more pieces for anyone to take that team seriously. It's going to be fun to watch LaMelo, obviously, but I think still, other than just entertainment value, I don't think that team has much substance to even make the playoffs potentially. Jae Crowder to the Suns. I think Jae Crowder is a good role player. He does little things quite well. He plays good defense. He hits the three. He's definitely improved his shooting. But again, he's not really a difference maker. The Suns are making some moves to make a push in the playoffs. But again, I think at best they're going to go out in the second round of the playoffs. And that's if they all stay healthy. Tristan Thompson to the Celtics. I think this is a good move for Boston. He would be a good piece to add to any team, to be honest, because he grinds, he grabs boards, he sets picks, he hits his free throws at a good rate. He can definitely help on the defensive side of guarding the bigs of the other teams, and maybe bring some vet knowledge to the young guys, I suppose. Jeff Teague to the Celtics also. I mean, this is a peculiar trade for me, even though I like Jeff Teague. I think Danny Ainge was trying to potentially trade Kemba Walker, which is going to create a weird dynamic. And because they're in similar positions in their careers, even though obviously Kemba Walker is better, I don't know if he's going to be happy backing up Kemba Walker, because there are so many young players on that team that want minutes. But I just don't know how that's going to work. We're going to have to wait and see. Serge Ibaka to the Clippers. I think this is a great pickup for the Clippers. He's definitely one of those role players that does push a team over the hump to win. I think he does a lot of things quite well. He's a good mid-range shooter. He hits his free throws. He can shoot the three. He sets picks. He's very good at pick and rolls and pick and pops. I think it's going to be a good fit, especially the fact that he's played with Kawhi Leonard already. So he pads out the team quite well because he does a lot. JaVale McGee to the Cavs. Obviously, this is nothing for the Cavs. They're pretty much not in any contention. They're not really making any noise. But again, on the flip side, I think maybe the Lakers should have tried to keep one of these backup centers, because in that role for the Lakers, it's these type of players that you need that will do the little things, that don't want the big minutes or want loads of touches. And I think JaVale McGee has proven that he can do that. He can catch the lobs, he can block shots, he can run the floor, he can get little buckets here and there. But they wanted to clear some money for Marc Gasol, which brings me to the Marc Gasol signing. This is a great pickup for the Lakers. Gasol is a good defender, even at his age. He's a very good passer. He can post up, he can shoot, he can hit the three. And I think he can definitely share the floor with AD, because I know Anthony Davis, as you all know, doesn't like to play the center. I just hope he stays healthy, and if he does, he's going to be a great addition to the Lakers. And finally, Cousins to the Rockets. If he can actually stay healthy and stay injury-free for the whole season, this is a very good pickup, I think, for any team. DeMarcus Cousins is a great player. They will probably go into training camp with Westbrook and Harden on the roster. So I think together this could be a dangerous team, because they've got a lot of good pieces as of today. They've got the shooters, they've got the ball handlers, they've got James Harden, who's an outstanding scorer, and Cousins will definitely fit in with those guys. He's got the tenacity and he plays hard. He can pass pretty well, he can create buckets for himself, and overall he's a very skilled big man, so I think a great pickup for the Rockets. Hopefully we see him fully healthy and playing like his old self, and he can contribute to the Rockets' playoff run. Now look guys, I know there has been a bunch of other trades and signings, but I just don't feel like they were significant enough. Either the players weren't significant, or the teams that were signing these players weren't in contention, so there's not really any point of delving into them too much, because they're either rebuilding team or they're a team that's not going to make the playoffs. And that's it for today guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Leave a comment if you want me to talk about anything or make a video on a particular subject. And again, as always, if you enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the video to help support the channel so I can keep bringing you guys more content. And until next time, peace.